Climate change is a trend that affects all trends. Everything will be impacted. Thawing permafrost, threatening homes, warmer, more acidic oceans and rivers, the migration of entire species.
There are some strange events happening in Antarctica. We can begin with a giant crack, some 70 miles long, that has developed at the South Pole, which threatens to destroy the Haley 6 research station, which is now being relocated as the crack continues to grow.
Sea levels rose by about 8 inches over the last century. Many of our villages are ready to slide off into the waters of Alaska. More than 300 wildfires were burning at once. Even the rainforest is on fire.
This image, taken by scientists from NASA's Ice Bridge mission, shows a rift in Larsen Sea, an ice shelf off the Antarctic Peninsula. When the crack eventually spreads across the entire ice shelf, it will create an iceberg the size of the state of Delaware, roughly about 2,500 square miles.
Actually burning through the permafrost. When the permafrost is no longer permanent, these gases are released into our atmosphere. And in some cases, there will be absolutely no hope. There's not going to be a nation on this earth that's not impacted negatively. People will suffer.
The crack is 300 feet wide and plunges down about 1/3 of a mile, all the way through the ice to the ocean below. The rift is fairly new, and the growth of the crack just recently took place, according to the latest satellite imagery.
Economies will suffer. More drought, more floods, rising sea levels, greater migration, more refugees, more scarcity, more conflict.
Larsen Sea is Antarctica's 4th largest ice shelf, and it holds back the land-based glaciers just behind it. Once the ice shelf goes, those slow-flowing glaciers have one less barrier in their journey toward the sea.
Submerged countries, abandoned cities, fields no longer growing, desperate refugees seeking the sanctuary of nations not their own, political disruptions that could trigger multiple conflicts around the globe, villages that are slipping into the sea, changing migratory patterns.
Now feast your eyes on this strange sunset from Brazil, captured just a few weeks ago. The video shows 3 separate light sources in the sky prior to dusk. Notice how the crowd of onlookers are gazing in amazement at this mysterious anomaly as they capture still images of what they are observing.
On this issue of all issues, there is such a thing as being too late.
You may have heard that there are strange humming sounds emanating from the heavens that have been heard in many parts of the world. There are many who now believe that the sounds of trumpets are caused by the approach of the Nibiru Nemesis system, shown in this image, referring to it as the Circle of Fire. The sounds of the trumpets are once again being heard, this time from Alexandria, Egypt on December 15th. Listen to the sounds of what is coming.
So thank you, and may God bless all of you and your countries, and thank you, Alaska, for your wonderful hospitality.
Earth is warming and changing our climate in fundamental ways.
The basic physics nobody disagrees with, which is that as the planet warms up, you have warmer ocean temperatures and you have warmer air. That's going to cause more extreme weather events by itself, and we're already seeing that.
What is entirely strange about this is that one section of the continent is accumulating ice, whereas the other half is steadily melting. This event is certain to ignite the climate change global warming debate. So something is taking place at the South Pole, and climate change alone cannot explain it. Logic would tell you that scientists have known about what is coming, their voices silenced by the almighty dollar and by those who are empowered to rule over the world.
Saying climate change is already sweeping all the continents and oceans of our planet. Their position, there is no doubt the planet is getting warmer.
Wait a minute. If climate scientists are so sure the Earth is warming, you may wonder, why was it so cold in parts of the U.S. this past winter? Here in Chatham, Massachusetts, on the 6th day of spring, blizzard conditions, wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. We're in a snowstorm. Another one.
Winter began typically enough, but soon gave way to a Siberian chill. On January 7th, some 50 cities, from the Rockies to the Atlantic Ocean, registered record lows. Power lines snapped, water pipes froze solid, and home heating bills soared by up to 50%. But what really stood out was how much snow there was, and how far south the cold crept, as far as central Florida. Cities that are normally balmy were put into a deep freeze. Atlanta was paralyzed by ice as a storm hit the city. Tens of thousands of people were stranded.
The massive crack that has recently been discovered will at some point in time reach the sea. And when it does, it will separate Larsen Sea from the rest of the ice shelf, creating an ice mass of some 6,500 square miles. The implications of such an event are enormous. Satellite images do offer a glimpse into what is happening on the frozen continent at this time, as well as secrets into its past.
Sometimes you get warm air high up in the atmosphere that causes this polar vortex to break down.
Wagner says one theory is that when the Arctic warms, the icy boundary of the polar vortex weakens, allowing cold air to spill south. But that theory is still being researched and debated.
Do you see a link between the amount of cold weather we've seen in the Northeast and climate change?
I see it as an example of what we can expect more of.
We're looking at extreme weather events and we're saying, is this a sign of climate change? What is the answer to that question?
The answer is yes. Extreme weather is a sign of climate change, and it's the kind of thing that we expect more of as the Earth continues to warm.
Startling images of a pyramid, or three, sticking out above the ice have been shared online, raising questions about the possibility of man-made structures and ancient civilizations that may have existed at a past time. Whatever secrets the continent may hold, things are changing rapidly on the frozen continent. That brings us to another question that has recently sparked a great deal of interest on the internet.
Here's where it gets confusing to people though, right? You can't attribute any one single event to climate change.
In other words, there isn't enough evidence to point to a specific weather event like Atlanta and say for sure that climate change was the cause. But it fits a pattern of extreme events that has scientists like Wagner concerned.
And the important thing about this is, where are we going? What kind of changes do we have to plan for?
So why is the planet getting warmer? Over the years, you've probably heard debate about whether man or nature is to blame.
Because the water level where I am down here is supposed to be more than 50 feet higher up there. That is supposed to be the boat dock. And it's only April. The hotter, drier months are still ahead.
as you can see, anything that rotates with the camera can be considered a lens artifact. Anything that stays still will regard as being in the sky as it is. As well, lens artifacts only occur when there's something bright enough to trigger it on the camera. At first I was a little bit frustrated by the amount of cloud cover, but as it turns out, the clouds actually help illustrate a couple of important bright object triggering it, and it's giving off its own beam of light. Simultaneously, the supposed sun underneath is also giving off its own beams of light. Of course, the most convincing thing to me was that I could see it with my naked eye, the clouds covering it and then uncovering it, beams of light shining and then dissipating from it. I mean, it's quite clear to me. And I think this video shows that there's another object up there.
There's that thing.
Parts of 23 states in the U.S. are already enduring drought. In the West, the number of areas with the most extreme drought has nearly doubled in the past year.
This used to be a plush, nice town, and now it's starting to look like a ghost town.
In Lake of the Woods, California, we found Tara Shirk trying to catch any passing drop of rain.
So you collected this rainwater from yesterday?
I collected this from yesterday. I'll use the water to flush my toilets, for watering my plants.
You pray for rain?
I pray for rain all the time.
The town's creek has dried up, the wells are almost without water too, and recent drilling hasn't produced a trickle. The low-tech water meter here signals what the residents are told. Their town has only a few weeks of water left. Though normal cycles of weather can cause drought in this region, NASA scientist Tom Wagner says persistently warm Pacific Ocean weather systems have kept rain away from this area, and the heat is affecting the snowpack.
Snow falls in the winter and then it melts throughout the summer. But what's happening is that snow is going away earlier.
Melting faster, he says, as temperatures rise.
We have a shorter period over which there is snow on the ground.
And if extremely dry conditions aren't a big enough threat, the ongoing drought, that some scientists call a mega drought, is increasing the risk of wildfires. In California alone, some 800 wildfires, big and small, have already ignited. That's 3 times the normal number. The U.S. Forest Service says nearly 70,000 communities across the country are in wildfire danger zones. That's more than 40 million homes, he says.
We joke about it being a year-round fire season.
Houston says the longer fire seasons aren't just putting communities at risk, they're also posing dangers to the men and women on the front lines.
But we can say some general things that we expect to happen as the planet warms. And one of those things is that the Southwest will get drier, and that places like the East will experience more intense rainfalls.
We have what seems to be, at least for now, a very abnormal situation.
Well, not abnormal in that this is the new normal.
Why did Secretary of State John Kerry make an unprecedented journey to the South Pole, with what was rumored to be vague concerns about a climate change issue? What was their real motive for going there? Was it to observe the giant crack in the ice shelf? Or maybe to observe and report back to Washington about the newly presumed discovery of ancient structures? But until the facts are known or become public, there will no doubt be a great deal of uncertainty about the reasons for his recent visit and what implications, if any, it holds for the future of our planet and its inhabitants. Then there is the matter involving former astronaut Buzz Aldrin and his recent visit to this area. He was medically evacuated from the continent a few weeks ago due to a sudden illness, in which afterwards he tweeted a totally bizarre message in which he warned that the Earth is in danger. It is evil itself. He then promptly deleted the tweet, which has included a photo of the pyramid-shaped structure. Back on December 27, 2004, a gamma ray burst occurred that was so powerful that had bounced off of the moon and lit up the Earth's upper atmosphere. It was brighter than anything ever detected from beyond our solar system. The flash was detected just one day after the massive Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami that killed hundreds of thousands on December 26, 2004. Now it seems that another massive cosmic ray burst is on its way to hit Earth sometime after Christmas. There appears to be a number of events or actions recently taken that provide signals to such an event taking place. There was the October executive order given by President Obama, coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for extreme space weather events. Shortly thereafter was the unexplained South Pole visit of U.S. government and space agency representatives. On December 8th, there was the mysterious vibration which was detected around the world, and although the vibration looked like a classic earthquake, there was no earthquake at the time of the event, and no source to explain it. The enormous crack spreading across Antarctica has potentially devastating consequences for the continent and the entire globe. But now a South Pole neutron monitor detected multiple ground-level events, but once again with no source to establish a cause. We might wonder whether the ongoing strange events around the world, and in particular in Antarctica, have something to do with a powerful wave that has the potential to cause large devastation to the Earth. As showing in the Global Satellite Data Indicator beginning on December 17th, an unprecedented wave of energy was registered across the globe, which was unassociated with either solar or man-made activity, which means that its source is unknown. It could be that the anticipated cosmic burst of energy may never materialize. This could also explain why White House and space agency officials recently visited Antarctica. If something catastrophic is approaching our planet from the far reaches of our solar system, then where better to detect the incoming system than from a location best suitable for observation? Whatever may be going on at the South Pole, it is being kept a secret and will remain a mystery for most of us.
But just in the last 6 years, as captured in this time-lapse video, it has doubled in speed.
Seen this world's fastest glacier lose an ice shelf the size of Manhattan Island while doubling in speed. This is a monumental change.
And ice hasn't been melting at such a furious pace just in the Arctic. Scientists have observed record ice melt all over the globe, from Alaska to Peru, from the Himalayas to the Swiss Alps.
What is that huge bright object located above the horizon in the southwestern sky during sunset? Have you observed its movement? It remains above the horizon even after sunset, and has been located in the same position for many weeks.
So a severe storm will take longer. Nice weather will take longer.
Right.
In 2012, Frances published a paper about her new theory, warning that more extreme weather was on its way. Then, just a few weeks later, Hurricane Sandy began to form.
Good evening. Tonight, much of the East Coast is on high alert.
Right.
You know, all that coming together was like watching a bad dream unfold in reality.
A dream you saw coming.
The possibility. We saw the possibility.
That theory about a direct link between Arctic ice melt and more intense storms seemed to be bearing out. Sandy happened the same year as the greatest ever recorded Arctic ice melt.
We still can't say for sure whether these two things are directly tied to each other, but it just seems an amazing coincidence if they're not.
Some dismiss this as Venus, but if you pay close attention, you will notice that it continues to draw closer and is becoming more luminescent. Then there is the question of why it is appearing above the horizon for a considerable period of time. If this is Venus, as some have said, then why is it looking and behaving so strangely as it moves across the horizon?
Because it turns out Miami Beach was built on a porous limestone plateau, which means seawater can force its way into the heart of the city through drains and up through the ground. And it's already happening. During high tides, ocean water can overwhelm the drains here, flooding roads like this one facing the bay.
An amateur astronomer who has been following the movement of this planetary object across the southwestern sky for many months now. The object is unknown, as it does not appear in the sky chart of celestial entities. The object is located between Mars and Venus.
Drought and fire, storms and floods.
It's kind of wanting to pull.
We'd heard from scientists who told us climate change is already here.
This is happening now. It's happening before our very eyes.
Moving perpendicular to the ecliptic. And the coordinates as of June 15th are listed here. Whatever happens to be out there, it now appears to be getting closer, moving more rapidly, and becoming more defined, as this video capture would indicate.
In Arkansas, 5,000 blackbirds suddenly dropped dead in mid-flight.
Thousands of dead fish wash up. Experts estimate somewhere between 80 and 100,000 fish died.
Toads spontaneously exploding. And not just a couple. Dozens. July 2005. Gavas, Turkey. A herd of 1,500 sheep are having breakfast, when suddenly, they all make a move, and they head straight for a rocky, deadly cliff. 450 sheep are dead, which really upset the shepherd. But the bodies of the dead sheep cushion the fall for the remaining 1,000 or so that survived. Queen Elizabeth National Park, Uganda. A perfect place to watch herds of hippos bathing and grazing in their natural habitat. But lately, they're turning up dead.